was a strange, dusty place. Our friend had a bad feeling about the area and urged us to quickly find our next bus. Soon we were again on a bus, this time throughout the day. The road to Koima, Nagaland's capital, was usually a dirt road under construction, high above the valleys below. Our friend from Kerala mentioned that road development in Nagaland reminded him of the same ventures in his home state. Every few years, a new company would make an agreement to finish the roads, launder the money, and make very little progress in the end. Koima is a mountaintop city that shows signs of quick development. The streets are not very busy and the people less inclined to stare. The people here are larger than the Makasis and hail from the many clans throughout the region. They have faces similar to their Chinese neighbors, but there is great variety amongst them. The street is often patrolled by men with large guns, and military vehicles travel the streets. In the past, local disagreements and border disputes were common. Now the Bangladesh people are migrating north due to coastal line loss as the ocean rises. This has displaced many people to venture into border areas to find new abodes. The area is dominated by Christianity, Baptist specifically. The people are not very open to getting to know foreigners, and not many Western visitors seem to make it this far. We heard that we must register with the nearby police and did so to avoid any trouble. The reaction of the police seemed to mean that this was an older practice, not commonly complied with presently. Our first matter of business was to feed ourselves. We went to a local restaurant that had a simple menu: beef, pork, dog. Our friend from Kerala ate dog for the first meal in Nagaland. I was tempted to try the local delicacy, but the smell of the restaurant, the wet dog smell, put me off. We had beef instead, which we found were beef entrails cooked in dark gravy, served on rice with some vegetables. It was not unpleasant, but the poor stomach conditions that we were enduring made us cautious. I was pretty certain that an intestine chutney in Meghalaya was one of the causes of my current condition. We spent a few days in Koima, walking around and seeing a few local forests. It seems the British prompted the planting of many pines throughout the northeast of India. Smoking in public was an offense. In the city, there are many ads to prevent AIDS, encourage education, participation in the military, and to beware of mosquito-borne illnesses. The bus tickets have a strange collection of helpful tips on them. Number 1, passengers are to obtain and retain their ticket till the end of their journey. 2, no perishable goods or prohibited materials will be carried. 3, tickets once purchased cannot be refunded. Tickets are not transferable. 4, always insist on tickets. 5, please check your luggage before and after getting down from the bus. 6, prevent HIV/AIDS. Use condom. We decided to get a taxi to the nearby village of Gunama, where we might find a nice area for camping. We arrived in rainy weather, near the center of the village where a large Baptist church looked over all arrivals. A local took us to a guest house at the very end of the village. We passed what seemed like a gathering area, decorated with the skulls of the local Mithuns. These are similar to cows, with the difference of having triangular-shaped skulls, where the top angles of which extend to neat, sturdy horns. We arrived in the guest house and found it was set up for weddings and accommodating the attendees of such celebrations. It was upscale for our needs, but again, I was too sick in my stomach to complain, and we spent 2 days at the overpriced lodging. The agriculture in this area is well managed, it seems. They grow an alder tree that is coppiced for the use of firewood and building materials. Beneath these, corn, berries, and other somewhat shade-bearing crops are grown. The alder trees are nitrogen-enriching and deciduous in nature, producing leaf mulch for the crops beneath them. Open and sunny lower areas are terraced to grow wheat and corn. Further up the mountains into the forest, wild apples abound and provide a tasty dried treat that can be purchased in the local market stalls. Within these areas, the Mithuns graze as a slightly domesticated wild stock. Their lands seem feudal in their workings. There are a few rich owners, and in the fields some modest hovels and houses wherein workers reside while maintaining the fields. We asked about camping in the area, and the locals were not obliging to the idea. First, they required that we register with the local ecotourism center. The second apprehension they had in regard to our plans involved the Mithuns. They said that a year earlier, a couple of foreigners had camped on the trail frequented by the animals, and an unfortunate accident occurred, resulting in bad publicity for the area. No particulars were mentioned, but they warned us that these animals could be dangerous and that we should avoid their grazing areas. We were still eager to camp and planned to leave within a few days in search of a good campground. During our short stay with the owners of the guest house, they told us some tales of the area. The rhododendron, which grows wild in these mountains, is used as a medicine to dislodge fish bones from the throat. The native clans of the areas were not peaceful before colonization, being headhunters up until the late 1980s. The English were unable to fight the warriors of the area and instead introduced opium, which allowed them to easily manipulate the devastated populations. To this day, warriors of the past can be found with tattoos that mark the number of heads they have claimed in battle. Still, these people have collections of skulls as trophies. Further to the east, our hosts noted with disgust, people still follow their traditional pagan religions and wear no clothing and live undisturbed tribal lives. It is unfortunate that Christianity, which has been equally warlike as its followers conquered the world, has convinced people across the globe that their ancestors are barbaric and that their traditional practices demonic and disturbing. Christians have committed the same atrocities as the pagan headhunters throughout the world. They are not innocent of genocides, wars, and other murderous atrocities. And when I hear that young people are beginning to question the ideas instilled in their families during colonization, I celebrate, for no people should be ashamed of their origins, especially in the false belief that a more civilized conqueror saved them from savagery. We were happy when our health improved and we ventured into the forest. We found a stream and set up our feeble tarp shelter just above it. It was only a few hours later that we had our first encounters with the Mithuns, which were lovely and not aggressive at all, given their space to graze as they wished. We watched them in caution, and each chose a tree to climb in the instance that they were perturbed by our presence. No such precautions were required. We happily ate wild apples from the forest floor and rejoiced in being away from the strange tourist-focused village of Konama. The next day we walked around within the forest and found an even more suitable place to make camp. We moved uphill and spent several days in our shelter as the weather quickly turned to a nearly constant drizzling rain. We were visited by squirrels, goats, and Mithuns. After several days we were running low on food and took advantage of good weather to return to Konama. We arrived at the ecotourism area to find a taxi to return to Koima and sat for some time waiting for some form of transportation. While we were waiting, an old man came over and started making a commotion concerning our large bearded friend from Kerala. As most of the people in the northeast grow no beard, the man from Kerala was often seen as strange in appearance in comparison to the hairless faces of the locals. The man went across the street to the small shop stall where he acquired a mirror and a pair of scissors. He then came over in front of us and mockingly showed our friend how to look into the mirror and trim the hairs off his chin. He spent maybe 5 minutes in this act. Soon we were able to get a ride with a person leaving towards Kohima and took advantage of the transport. We got back to Kohima and spent